Fumiya Tomozaki is a complete loser in real life. He has no friends and no ambitions, but there is one thing that he is very good at. Tomozaki is the best player in the game called Attack Families. He has been the #1 player of the game and has reached the top of the rank with his skills. Tomozaki goes against the popular boy in school, Nakamura, and even manages to beat him. Nakamura thinks that Tomozaki just got lucky, but he refuses to accept the fact that Tomozaki is better than him. After their match ends, Nakamura completely ignores Tomozaki and heads off with his other friends. While others hang around and participate in fun activities, Tomozaki reflects on how life is also a game, but he completely fails at it. There are too many rules against people like him, and these rules go unchallenged. Tomozaki wishes he was as successful in real life as he is with competitive games, but right now, he's just a loser to everyone else. Tomozaki goes back home where he plays a match against an unknown player. The player is really good, and Tomozaki even appreciates their skills. He thinks that he will lose the match, but after much effort, Tomozaki wins. But he is curious about who this person is, and coincidentally, the person messages Tomozaki. They want to meet up with him, and Tomozaki agrees. The next day, while in class, Tomozaki wonders whether the rumors of him beating Nakamura have spread throughout school, but since someone like Tomozaki won, nobody cares about the matter. Then Aoi Hinami enters, and she is the most popular girl in class. Tomozaki notes how Hinami is the perfect girl. She is a star athlete, has excellent grades, and is pretty on top of it. She is the type of person who would never speak to Tomozaki. But on this particular day, Hinami ends up talking to Tomozaki about his game with Nakamura, and she is interested to know whether he actually won. Tomozaki says nothing because he knows that boasting about the matter would make him come off as arrogant, and then the entire school would hate him even more. Later on, Tomozaki heads over to the location where he is going to meet the mysterious player that almost beat him. He is surprised to learn that the player is Hinami herself. Tomozaki is shocked to see her as he approaches her, but Hinami's reaction is even more shocking. She is disgusted that someone like Tomozaki would end up being a top-ranked player. She doesn't like Tomozaki because she thinks he has given up on life and is just a low-life loser who sulks around all day. Hinami insults him a lot, but Tomozaki has to step in and defend himself. He tells Hinami that living life is difficult for someone like him and that she is being rude. Hinami doesn't even make an effort to apologize and then insults his appearance as well. This is the last straw for Tomozaki because he blurts out how life is unfair for people like him, and that, unlike Hinami, he does not know how to get better or where to start. He tells the girl that being a loner is in his bones, and that even when he is in a group, he is destined to feel lonely. Hinami realized that Tomozaki has probably never experienced a normal life and activity. She decides to invite him over to her house to discuss the matter further and help him out. Once they reach her place, Tomozaki is nervous to be in her room, but Hinami doesn't care. She tells Tomozaki that he needs to work on his expressions and posture. Hinami is fired up because she does not like Tomozaki's attitude towards life. She tells him that life is just like Attack Families, and this makes Tomozaki realize that if life is also a game, then he can use his gamer skills to try to reach the top. The two of them then go to a cafe where Hinami instructs Tomozaki to practice his smile by wearing a mask, and from now on, they will be meeting at a secret schoolroom to go over Tomozaki's training and make him a normal member of society. The following day, Tomozaki and Hinami meet at school, and Hinami lists down all of the things Tomozaki will have to achieve to stop being a loser in life. Tomozaki feels nervous about a lot of the demands that Hinami has listed down, and is not sure if they will truly help him. At Tomozaki's school, the girls get to wear either a tie or a bow, but there is a hidden rule that unpopular girls do not get to wear a tie, and only the most popular girls are allowed to wear one. Now Hinami has tasked Tomozaki with talking to at least 3 girls, and 2 of them wear ties, which means that they are part of the popular cliques in school. The first girl that Hinami wants Tomozaki to speak to is Yuzu Izumi. Another one is Minami Nanami, who is friends with Hinami and also very loud and talkative. The third girl that Tomozaki can talk to is up to him. Tomozaki is nervous about the whole thing because he has never spoken to any of the girls before. He first approaches Yuzu Izumi, who sits right next to him. He asks Izumi for a tissue as his way of talking to her and gets flustered when she tells him that she doesn't have one. But then, Izumi asks a girl called Fuka if she has a tissue, and she ends up giving one to Tomozaki. She is a lot more shy and timid, but Tomozaki makes a fool of himself in front of Fuka as well. The girl that he has to talk to is Nanami, and she is another highly popular and accomplished girl in class. Everyone loves her, and talking to her will be even more difficult. Tomozaki is really nervous to approach her, and when she enthusiastically asks him why he is approaching her, he simply states there is no reason. Then he starts talking about how it's funny that Nanami was completely okay with his weird response, and Tomozaki's reaction makes Nanami burst out in laughter. She thinks that Tomozaki is very funny. Just then, Tama, a friend of Nanami, entered, and she also wants Tomozaki to explain his joke. But things get a bit too much for Tomozaki when Nakamura and his friends also arrive, and they want to know why Nanami is laughing so hard. She explains that Tomozaki is very funny, and then they force him to repeat his joke. The entire time, Tomozaki does not know how to act, and he watches the entire group hold a vote on the topic of whether Tomozaki is actually funny. Hanami can sense that things are going out of control and joins the conversation as well. She brings up the topic of Nakamura losing a match to Tomozaki, which makes everyone more shocked. Hinami tells Nakamura to settle the matter by challenging Tomozaki to another game of attack families, and he accepts. Once everyone leaves, Tomozaki is grateful to Hinami for handling the situation. Later on, they meet in the secret room again, and Hinami tells Tomozaki that if he does not get along with Nakamura, that could pose a serious threat to his social life. But for now, she wants him to focus on his posture and on conversation topics. She wants Tomozaki to talk to girls in a group as his task for the following week. For the meantime, she wants Tomozaki to accompany her group of friends as they leave school. Tomozaki is incredibly nervous and only manages to blurt out stupid things when he is surrounded by other people. In the end, he ends up walking alone with Nanami. He is nervous because the girl is very energetic and talkative. She tells Tomozaki that she intends on living a carefree life and that she wonders if something is going on between him and Hinami. She tells Tomozaki to stop being so gloomy and also explains how much she cares for Hinami. The following day, Hinami and Tomozaki meet for their usual lessons, and she explains her friend dynamics to Tomozaki. She explains that when they are in a group, Nanami is the one to introduce new topics, while Hinami will expand on the topics. This makes the conversation flow smoothly. She wants Tomozaki to use flashcards to join in the conversation and wants to meet up with him over the weekends. Tomozaki meets up with Hinami, but he has to apologize for being late. She doesn't mind because clearly Tomozaki tried to put in an effort towards his appearance. Today, they are meeting at the mall so that Hinami can help Tomozaki pick a better outfit and work on his appearance. She tells him that appearance in the real world is just like a character selection screen, and that he needs to put in an effort on what he wears in order to make a better impression. Hinami tells Tomozaki to pick out an outfit, and he finds one that he likes. But when it comes to asking for help, Tomozaki is hopeless and can't even manage to get a salesperson to help him out. Afterward, the two head to a restaurant where Hinami tells Tomozaki that he has a haircut appointment soon. But before that, they decide to eat. Tomozaki tells Hinami that he realizes that he speaks in a very shy and timid way. Hinami agrees and teaches him to be more expressive when he talks. When their food is served, they are surprised to learn that Fuka works there. She is also nervous around them and politely serves them the food. Hinami gets an idea and proposes to make Fuka into the heroine of the story. She wants Tomozaki to make Fuka his girlfriend. She thinks they are the perfect match for each other. Tomozaki isn't sure about that, but Hinami insists that it's perfect for his rise on the social ladder. The following day, Tomozaki tells Hinami that his sister tried to give him a compliment because of his new hairstyle. Even though he managed to clear one goal, Tomozaki is not confident in his skills and thinks that he isn't quite ready yet, but Hinami assures him that he put in a lot of effort as well, and that he had the courage to follow her advice. Now, Hinami wants Tomozaki to talk to Izumi every day of the week. He gets surprised to hear this because Hinami wanted him to date Fuka, but she explains that it is better to gain affection from several girls, so that his social ranking is raised. Tomozaki then tries to talk to Izumi but fails miserably. He tells Hinami that he wants to give up, but she forces him to keep trying, and then Tomozaki spends an entire week trying to talk to Izumi and barely getting any response from her. He heads to the library where he feels defeated and runs into Fuka. Tomozaki pretends to read Fuka's favorite book, but in reality, he is trying to come up with game strategies. When she notices him, she gets excited to learn that Tomozaki likes the same book as her, and he continues to follow along, lying to her in the process. Fuka shares that she has been writing a novel as well, and wants Tomozaki to read it. He accepts her request, and then Tomozaki tells Hinami about his entire conversation with Fuka. Now he has to find a way to keep up the lie about reading Fuka's favorite novel, and even Hinami agrees that he has dug himself quite the hole. After school, Tomozaki leaves silently and finds Izumi sitting alone. She looks a little distressed, so he tries talking to her, but she shuns him out. As Tomozaki is about to leave, Izumi asks him to teach her how to play attack families. Izumi tells Tomozaki that she has a crush on Nakamura, but he has been practicing attack families and has not been spending time with her at all. She feels bad and wants Tomozaki to teach her the game so that she can win back Nakamura. She also tells him that a girl named Erika Kono confessed that she likes Nakamura, but he blew her off, and now things are even more awkward. Izumi invites Tomozaki back to her place where they play the game together, but Izumi is a complete beginner, and Tomozaki has his work cut out for him. He decides to go into his serious gamer mode and give her advice on how to play the game. He tells her about the different strategies and moves a character can make, and he makes a chart for Izumi so that she can follow them. He also tells her to use a stopwatch to count her jumps and learn how to time them perfectly. Izumi is surprised to see Tomozaki so passionate about the game, and she finds his attitude quite different. Tomozaki explains that he has taken the game seriously his entire life, but now someone is helping him to come out of his shell, and he has started viewing life as a serious game as well. Later on, Hinami meets up with Tomozaki and pushes him to ask out Fuka on a date. She gives 2 tickets to a movie and wants him to invite Fuka as well. The next day, Tomozaki notes Izumi's practice of the game and then meets Fuka at the library. He tells her the truth about pretending to like her favorite book and apologizes for lying, but the girl doesn't mind. Instead, he tells Fuka that he wants to know more about her favorite book and wants to start reading them. This is why he is determined to come to the library every day. Fuka likes the idea, and the two have an amiable conversation. But still, Tomozaki feels bad about not being able to ask Fuka to the movies, but he does intend on asking her after they have grown more friendly to each other. Tomozaki heads out to meet with Hinami, but Nakamura wants to have his attack families match with Tomozaki right now, and he has set up the game in a classroom. Tomozaki is nervous because Nakamura is already angry that Tomozaki has been hanging around with Izumi, and on top of that, Izumi and Erika enter the class as well. Everyone has arrived to see the match between the two, and then the game starts. But it is clear that Nakamura has no chance. He loses to Tomozaki over and over again. Each time he insists on trying again, but ends up on the losing side. Hinami learns of the match and joins in as well. At this point, Nakamura has managed to lose every single match, and his friends are getting uncomfortable. At some point, Nakamura manages to gain an upper hand, but it's no use. Erika decides to chime in and calls out Nakamura for trying too hard. She basically insults by calling him a thick head and for being too serious about a stupid game. Erika is trying to feel better about her rejection from Nakamura and berates him for wasting time on something so pointless, but her words trigger Tomozaki and he yells at Erika for calling the game stupid. Everyone is shocked as the Tomozaki talks back and tells Erika that he hates people like her. who look down on others, and that Nakamura spent a lot of time practicing and still kept going on. He tells Erika that he hates ER for looking down on someone else's efforts, and then Izumi also chimes in and tells Erika that the game takes a lot of skill and effort, and that she has tried playing it as well, and there is nothing wrong with taking a game seriously. Erika is insulted and leaves the room. The situation calms down, and for now Nakamura promises to defeat Tomozaki. Later on, Tomozaki meets Hinami and ends up asking her out for the movies. She says yes to the plan, but has a different move in mind. Tomozaki plays a match against Hinami, but beats her ruthlessly. He then thinks about their movie plan and the talk they had after the movie ended. Hinami wants Tomozaki to change the way he talks when discussing different topics. Following that, he decides to become more assertive and asks Izumi about Nakamura's birthday. But this turns out to be a problem because Tomozaki comes off as too direct and blunt. Later on, Mizusawa, a friend of Nakamura, comes up to Tomozaki to speak to him. He tells Tomozaki that he admires the way he tackled Erika, and he likes the fact that Tomozaki is so passionate about something. Mizusawa knows that people call Tomozaki a freak for being too invested in games, but he thinks it's cool that Tomozaki has an interest and is not just a boring person. Tomozaki relays all of this to Hinami and tells her that Mizusawa wants to hang out with him and wants him to invite 2 other girls as well. Hinami believes this is the perfect opportunity for Tomozaki to practice his conversational skills and complete one of his goals. Tomozaki decides to invite Izumi as well, since she would want to buy a present for Nakamura, and they can all go as a group. The following day, Tomozaki tries to invite Izumi, but she politely declines, thinking that her presence will be bothersome. But Tomozaki decides to push a little more and gets Izumi excited about the hangout. She decides to accept and is looking forward to buying a present for Nakamura. Later on, Mizusawa talks to Tomozaki and wonders if there is anything going on between him and the other girls, since he has also been working on his appearance lately. But Tomozaki just shies away. At home, he gets an invitation to join a group text between Mizusawa, Izumi, and Hinami. Tomozaki doesn't know what to do, but he reluctantly ends up accepting it, and is welcomed by Hinami and the others. The next day, Tomozaki meets up with the others, but immediately feels uncomfortable because he doesn't know how to speak in a large group. Meanwhile, Izumi tries to find a gift for Nakamura, but nothing seems to feel right. She then tells Tomozaki that there is a rumor going around that Mizusawa is dating Hinami, which shocks him, but he doesn't say anything. The entire time, Tomozaki is just worried about achieving his goal. Hinami told him to make 2 successful suggestions to the group, but he ended up not saying anything at all. Izumi decides to buy hairstyling wax for Nakamura, and Mizusawa ends up trying it on Tomozaki to make sure that it works. The group then moves ahead, and Tomozaki decides to buy a gift for Nakamura as well. They end the day by going out for food, and the next day when Tomozaki meets up with Hinami, she reprimands him for not taking charge at all. She wants to ask Tomozaki about his findings from the outing, and he shares that even a slight improvement in his appearance made him feel good, but he was unable to make any suggestions. Hinami tells him that in order to take charge, he needs to make suggestions that sound good, regardless of how they actually turn out. Their lesson ends for now, and back in class, Nanami and Hinami decide to run for the student council elections. For now, Hinami decides to stop her lessons with Tomozaki because she has grown incredibly busy. However, she wants to be Nanami's campaign manager. She believes that this role would be a good way for Tomozaki to continue his lessons and learn more about interacting with other people. Tomozaki reluctantly accepts and then asks Nanami if she would like to have him as her campaign manager, but she politely declines because she doesn't think that Tomozaki is reliable. Feeling disappointed, he heads to the library where he has a conversation with Fuka and feels much better. The following day, when coming to school, Tomozaki finds Nanami and her new campaign manager trying to encourage people to vote for Nanami. In another corner, Hinami and her campaign manager, Mizusawa, are also talking with people and trying to spread the good word about Hinami as president. Later on, Nanami gives Tomozaki her manifesto, but he realized that the layout of the page is horrible and decides to help her out. He fixes the font, and Nanami is impressed at how much better the manifesto looks. Tomozaki suggests to Nanami that he can help her out with technical stuff like that, since she herself is not that good with these things. Nanami likes the idea of having a brain beside her who can help her out with things, and she happily accepts. She even asks Tomozaki if he can help her after school, and he accepts. But Nanami also wants to know why Tomozaki is so eager to help her out. Tomozaki simply states that he wants to beat Hinami at the game called Life, and this motivates him. Nanami and Tomozaki then head over to the gym, where she tries talking to spread the message of her campaign. She speaks with the sports club leader and tries to entice her about new changes if she becomes president. After their campaign stop, Tomozaki and Nanami sit down and have a chat. Tomozaki wonders why she wants to beat Hinami, and Nanami explains that in history everyone remembers the first position but not the second. This is why she is eager to come out on top. Tomozaki decides to put in more of an effort to help out Nanami with her campaign. He works with Tama as well to carry out a secret plan related to the campaign and is tasked with writing her speech. Nanami meanwhile introduces her manifesto to different classes and speaks to all of them about the changes she will bring about if selected as president. Tomozaki and Nanami have definitely grown closer together, and Hinami is glad to see this change. Hinami is looking forward to going against Tomozaki for the elections, especially since both of them are also rivals in the game attack families. The day of the election speeches arrive, and each candidate has to deliver a speech that wins over the student body. Tomozaki is nervous about what Hinami has planned for her speech, but he is also confident about the tactic he came up with for Nanami's speech. Hinami is the first to go, and it is clear that the students love her. She delivers a passionate speech about changing things around school, but she also mentions changes that Nanami was going to mention in her own speech. Hearing Hinami win over the students while also acknowledging that the changes will take a lot of work to implement makes Tomozaki believe that Nanami's chances have drastically dropped. Still, they don't give up, and after Hinami's speech, Nanami's turn begins and she takes the stage. For Nanami's part, Tomozaki has planned a little gimmick that allows Nanami to appear more interesting and fun. Through a speaker in the gym, he plays a recording of a virtual assistant, and Nami pretends to talk to it. The bit is fun for the students and makes Nanami's speech more entertaining. In the end, Nanami manages to do quite well as well, and leaves a good impression on the students. Nanami is extremely grateful for Tomozaki's help and hugs him, which leaves him feeling a little shy. Now the only deciding factor is going to be the vote, and in the end, Hinami ends up winning. Nanami isn't upset at all. In fact, she is looking forward to trying her best next time, and her ideology is to always keep moving and get better. Tomozaki wonders if she is actually okay with it, or just pretending. Later on, Tomozaki meets up with Hinami for his regular lessons with her, and she commends him for coming up with Nanami's election campaign. Now their focus is going to be on getting Tomozaki to go on a date with a girl. He has to ask Fuka to watch a movie with him, and the perfect opportunity has risen. A movie based on Fuka's favorite book has been released, and Tomozaki very shyly tries to ask if she wants to see the movie with him. Fuka accepts happily, and Tomozaki decides to read the rest of the novels. When he leaves the library, he finds Tama staring out the window. He finds out that Tama is watching Nanami practice running with Hinami. She explains that Nanami has already taken up a competitive attitude and is working hard to catch up with Hinami. The next day, Tomozaki asks Hinami about Nanami, and she tells him that it's not bad for Nanami to put in so much effort, which Tomozaki agrees with. He then runs into Tama again, and she explains that Nanami is the first person to come talk to her. She always felt lonely and awkward in class, but Nanami would tease her and they eventually became friends. Hinami would also join them, and the three girls would become inseparable. At the end of the day, the girls and Tomozaki hang out after school, and Tomozaki notes just how close they really are. While studying in her room, Nanami briefly recalls her basketball match with Hinami and how she lost the match and felt incredibly bad about it. But she forces herself to stop thinking about such things and goes for a run in the middle of the night. In class, Nanami almost falls asleep and her teacher had to wake her up. The entire class starts to laugh, but her friends are worried about Nanami. In the library, Tomozaki speaks with Fuka, and they are both worried that Nanami is pushing herself too hard. She has been very tired recently and looks quite preoccupied. They worry that Nanami is trying to be competitive with Hinami, but the girl will only end up hurting herself. Fuka also wonders what type of person Hinami is. She tells Tomozaki that that when she tries to understand Hinami, nothing comes to mind, and she wants to know what drives Hinami to keep going. Tomozaki wonders this as well, and later on he meets with Tama, who is once again watching Nanami practice with Hinami. She knows that her friend is pushing herself too hard, but she doesn't know if she should try to stop Nanami. While going back home, Nanamu and Tomozaki end up walking alone, and he wants to know why Nanamu has been working so hard lately. He wonders if her ultimate goal is to beat Hinami, but Nanami tells Tomozaki that she is on the verge of giving up, but she doesn't want to allow herself to just give up now, so she is forcing herself to work harder. Tomozaki understands how horrible it feels to turn into a sore loser, so he decides to support Nanami. The following day, Nanami is up bright and early and has already arrived at school for practice. Hinami is surprised to see her, and the two girls begin their practice. Nanami once again recalls the day of the basketball match, when she was angry at her team for being okay with losing the match, and the memory almost makes her trip. Later on, Hinami tells Tomozaki that she is worried that Nanami will reach her breaking point soon. She has been working too hard and wants to speak to her, but that could make things worse. Tomozaki wants to know why Nanami has such an attitude towards Hinami, and she tells him to look into their middle school basketball match. Tomozaki speaks with one of Nanami's teammates, and she tells him about Nanami was crushed by Hinami defeating her, and it was very difficult for her, even though her team was proud of her for coming so far. She never let go of the match, and this has resulted in her current attitude. The following day, Tama and Tomozaki are looking out the window and they get worried, thinking that Nanami is practicing in the rain as well. But it turns out it's only Hinami out on the field. For some odd reason, Nanami is not there. Later on, Tama expects to see Nanami for practice, but when the time comes, Nanami decides not to attend practice. Tomozaki gets worried and it looks like it might rain again, so he sets off to find Nanami, only to find her at the station. Tomozaki reveals to Nanami that he knows about the match, and she comes clean. She tells him that when she lost the match, she realized that she does not shine as brightly as Hinami. Even when Hinami's team came second at the tournament, she did not look upset until the winning team was called out. This made Nanami realize that she isn't special like Hinami, and she wanted to do better. She would later meet Hinami during their high school entrance ceremony, and the two girls would become great friends and even join the same clubs. But then Hinami would win a racing match against Nanami, and she could truly feel the distance between them. Even though Nanami is trying to be positive about the whole situation, Tomozaki can tell that she is not okay. The next day, Hinami tells Tomozaki that Hinami has not attended practice at all, and it turns out that Nanami has decided to leave the club altogether. Hinami confronts Nanami about her leaving, and she simply tells Hinami that her body can no longer take it. The confrontation creates quite the commotion in class, as everyone looks on. Later on, Hinami decides to walk back from school with some other friends, but Tomozaki steps in and requests her to walk school with him and Tama instead. His request is so surprising that Nanami has no choice but to accept. The trio decide to sit in a shed where Nanami expresses her true emotions. In her eyes, Hinami is the perfect person, she is always better at everything she does, and Nanami doesn't know whether she should hate Hinami and drive her away or keep being friends with her. Nanami starts to cry, but Tama comforts her and tells Nanami that in her eyes, Nanami will always be number one. Tama's words bring comfort to Nanami, and she goes back to her usual self. Nanami even joins the sports club again. Now Tomozaki has to focus on his new goal, which is to give Nakamura his present and speak to him for 3 minutes. Tomozaki is very shy and gives Nakamura a new gaming console. He wants Nakamura to practice hard so that they can play together. but since his 3 minutes are not up, Nakura ends up saying pure nonsense to keep talking to Nakamura and ends up being made fun of by the rest of the girls. Nanami then gives everyone a special cat charm to commemorate their friendship. Hinami meets up with Tomozaki and immediately makes fun of the way that he is dressed. When she is with her friends, she pretends to be quite nice and cheery, but in reality she is very rude and blunt, and now she wants Tomozaki to change himself. They first talk at a cafe where Hinami tells Tomozaki that he needs to complete his goal of going on a date with a girl, which will be fulfilled once he watches the new movie with Fuka. However, now she wants him to make it his summer goal to turn Fuka into his girlfriend. Tomozaki is shocked to hear this, but Hinami thinks that Fuka is the perfect candidate because they already have an interest in common and have been spending a lot of time together, and soon they will also go on a date together. This is why today's outing is basically a date rehearsal. First, Hinami takes Tomozaki to a clothing store and tries to get new clothes for him to wear. She selects shoes and shirts for him to wear, and even gifts him one of her old backpacks to replace the old one he currently has. Tomozaki feels bad about accepting such a present from Hinami, and instead decides to buy her a metal badge that she selected for herself as a way to say thanks. The duo then go to the video store where they play a game of attack families, but as usual, Hinami is unable to defeat Tomozaki. Later on, Tomozaki nervously adds Fuka to his contact list and then sends her a message about meeting for the movie. Hinami first reads the message before letting Tomozaki send it. She is impressed by his ability to write a message and lets him send it to Fuka. He gets a response within minutes, and Fuka is excited to meet with Tomozaki for the movie. At the end of the day, Hinami tells Tomozaki that he has been invited to an overnight barbecue party with her other friends. This is very stressful for Tomozaki because he has never been to such a gathering, but Hinami wants him to see it as a chance to level up and gain more experience. Before the party, she has invited Tomozaki for a strategy meeting with Nanami and Mizusawa, and Tomozaki's task for this meeting is going to be to engage in light banter with Mizusawa. This seems impossible to Tomozaki, but it is important because he needs to be able to joke around with others instead of just doing whatever he is told. The following day, Mizusawa, Hinami, and Nanami end up meeting at Tomozaki's house, where he tries his best to tease Mizusawa and manages to complete the task. The group discuss their barbecue plans and how to set up Izumi and Nakamura. The next day, Tomozaki meets with Fuka, and the two also have a successful date. At the end of the day, Fuka tells Tomozaki that she would like to see him again, and he accepts. The day for the barbecue finally arrives, and Tomozaki meets up with the rest of the group to head towards the barbecue camp. During this trip, Hinami has 3 tasks for Tomozaki and wants him to continue his light teasing, but this time he has to try it out on Nakamura. Apart from this, the entire trip is one big plot to get Izumi and Nakamura to become a couple. Once they arrive at the camp, Hinami gives each of them roles for the trip, and everyone gets to work. They start cooking up their food and enjoy a carefree day. Tomozaki feels really strange because he never imagined that one day he would be part of such a hangout as well. The group then ends up swimming in the river, and Tomozaki watches on as Izumi and Nakamura share a moment together. Later, the boys go to their cabin, where Tomozaki hears what guy talk is really like. Nakamura talks about Izumi, and she has been festering him for a long time. He doesn't seem to be interested in the girl, but doesn't know what to do. The rest of the guys tease him about it, and Tomozaki joins in as well. Afterwards, the guys meet up with the girls in their cabin, and they play cards while teasing each other. Mizusawa tells everyone that there is a girl that he likes, and that the two of them could become a couple, but he has refrained himself from doing so. Everyone is shocked by this, and later Tomozaki takes the opportunity to ask Mizusawa about the girl. He doesn't reveal much, but just tells him that he isn't asking the girl out for some reason. At night, the group head towards the bathhouse, and afterwards they have to head back, but the way is scary. Everyone tries to set up Izumi and Nakamura to walk together, but Hinami is also trying to test Tomozaki and walks with, while intentionally clinging onto him. Somewhere along the line, they start to get a little bit too close. Hinami ends up teasing Tomozaki and almost kisses him, but he moves away, which makes her laugh at him. The group reconvene after making their way through the scary forest, and they can see some difference in the way Izumi and Nakamura are acting around each other. After everyone heads back to bed, Hinami and Tomozaki meet up to discuss his tasks and whether he accomplished them. Tomozaki informs her that he was able to complete his task and tells her how he did it, but before they can speak more, Mizusawa shows up and Tomozaki immediately goes into hiding to avoid being seen. Mizusawa sits with Hinami and the two share an intense moment as they talk about their feelings. Mizusawa shares how he feels like he does not feel in control of his own life. He feels like he is viewing everything from someone else's perspective, and admire Tomozaki for being so straightforward and earnest with his emotions. Hinami also shares her feelings and how she feels like she is always wearing a mask. Everyone thinks that she is a perfect person, and in order to meet those expectations, she ends up changing who she really is. Tomozaki is listening to the entire conversation and starts understanding Hinami a lot better. Mizusawa then ends up confessing his feelings to Hinami. He knows that she will not say yes to him, but he still wanted to get the feelings off his chest. Tomozaki decides to reveal himself because the conversation is getting too personal now. The following day, the group head back from their trip and Tomozaki starts to wonder if viewing life as a game is truly the way to go. He then meets with Fuka because he promised to watch the fireworks at the festival with her. The two meet up and have a great time. They watch the fireworks together and Tomozaki asks Fuka if it was easier to talk to him today, and she says yes. In that moment, Tomozaki realizes what he is truly feeling. Later on, Tomozaki meets up with Hinami and tells her that for the first time, he tried being himself with Fuka, and while they have fun, he is not sure if he truly likes her. Tomozaki wants to be sure about what he wants before moving to such things, but Hinami does not like this at all. She calls Tomozaki weak for having such a pathetic attitude, and decides to terminate their lessons altogether. Tomozaki is gradually turning back to his usual self. He stays in his room and plays games all day, and even his sister is getting worried that her brother, who was once very cool, is now turning back into his loser self. She even tells him that his phone has been receiving messages for days, and when Tomozaki picks it up, he finds a message from Fuka asking him to join her for the release of her author's favorite book. Tomozaki feels upset about leaving Fuka unanswered for so long and decides to meet up with her. The two head to the bookstore where Fuka is happy to find the released book. The duo then heads to a restaurant where Tomozaki comes clean to Fuka and tells her that someone has been guiding him on what to say and do, and that he has been receiving flashcards on the topics that he should discuss. He wants to apologize to Fuka for leading her astray, but the girl doesn't mind. She tells Tomozaki that she has fun talking to him because he is easy to understand and she easily visualizes whatever he is talking about. Tomozaki is glad that Fuka feels this way about him. Later on, he messages Hinami to return the bag that she gave to him, and they decide to meet as well. Tomozaki tells Hinami that he is glad that she was able to help him out so much and allowed him to come so far, but in the end, he decided to not treat life as a game. He feels like complex emotions and relationships cannot be boiled down to just tasks and goals. Hinami is not convinced by this and tells Tomozaki that Warrior considering that there is no point in having desires and that his way of thinking is only foolish. Tomozaki then realizes that Hinami needs help as well, and he offers to teach Hinami how to treat life in a more holistic way. He wants her to learn how to enjoy things instead of viewing everything as just a game. Hinami decides to accept Tomozaki's challenge, and she is eager to learn more about life as well. The two then eat at a restaurant where they decide that Hinami's lessons will continue, but Tomozaki will get to decide whether he wants to pursue something or not. Hinami also gives him his next task, which is to find a part-time job. Tomozaki ends up working in the same place as Mizusawa and continues his friendship with the entire group. He also continues meeting with Fuka. In the end, Tomozaki gets to express his true self while also keeping everything he gained along the way.